Hello and welcome to Season 2 of our First Baptist Church on Fifth podcast. Last season, we heard a number of conversations from our church's members who all answered the same 5 questions about their faith and doubt, about community and hope. This season, we're focusing on the 100th anniversary of our church house. We've been nestled right here on 5th Street in Winston-Salem for 100 years. And oh, if these walls could talk. Our conversations this season will tell a bit about our sacred space, its history, what it means to us, how we use the space and are sent from it. But our conversations will also broaden to the experience of sacred space in general, how we find home in sacred spaces, what sacred space means to communities and neighborhoods and cities, what formation happens, and how then we live. Join us this season for the First Baptist Church on Fifth podcast. And thank you for listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the First Baptist Church on Fifth podcast. It is so good to have you with us again. Thank you for joining us in this new season where we're talking a lot about sacred space, how we exist in sacred spaces, how they're created, what they mean to us, how they form us. And in particular, we're talking about this congregation's sacred space, the one in which we sit right now, because this year we're celebrating 100 years right here in the heart of the city on 5th Street, 100 years in this church house. And there is no better conversation partner to have to talk about this wonderful church house than my friend Paul McCraw. Let me introduce Paul to you. Paul is a retired history teacher, guru extraordinaire. He taught in public schools for nearly 30 years, private schools for 7, community colleges, all levels. He is a brilliant scholar, a wise mind. He serves our church as our historian and has for a number of years, 25 years. Paul joined First on Fifth in February of 1963. So he has seen this church through a lot of seasons of life. And we are so fortunate to have his wisdom and his insight, his stories, to help orient us to this 100th year in our church house and help us understand why it matters. So Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you here with us. So we are going to start. As I said, we are celebrating 100 years in this church house, but our church itself, the congregation, has been around longer than that. So I would love for us to start today, Paul, with you telling us a little bit about what all was happening in 1870. What was happening in our town of Winston-Salem? What was happening in North Carolina? Set the stage for those early years of what is now known as First Baptist Church.
Very good. It was, of course, 5 years after the Civil War had ended. Most of the South was undergoing less than pleasant years of trying to be reconstructed, and Winston was such a small town. It had been formed in 1850, 20 years before, as the new courthouse for the new county of Forsyth, which had been split from Stokes County. And the county seat at Germantown remained in Stokes, so they needed to find a new location. The only village was Salem. Salem refused to accept the courthouse. They didn't like all the people who would be coming to court, but more than that, they were extremely concerned about whippings in those days that they had. So they decided to sell to the county an area to the north of Salem. It involved 250 acres, and they sold it, well, a little less than that, but they sold it for $256.
Oh, my goodness.
It was 7 blocks north and south and 3 street blocks east and west.
Wow.
The north-south streets were continued from Salem, Maine, to its east Church, and to its west Liberty. And then north-south streets going east and west then became numbered streets. They went in the middle of the area, which was the highest point in the town, and built the courthouse. Took a number of years before they were able to have court. And for a short time, they did use the orchestra house in Salem for courts. But the town had started growing very slowly because of the inability to get things going. Even in 1870, with only 443 people, one business, the town originally had only one person who lived there, a Mr. Wilson, who had moved there from Salem so he could be out in the country. It was on the corner of what's now Main and 2nd.
Wow.
So it took quite a while to get it going. But in 1870, with so few people, a man had moved to Winston from Smithfield to start over after having unhappy health situations. And he asked in the last part of 1870 if we could start a group of Baptists. Only one person showed up. He had attended a Baptist church earlier, but was of no particular faith. But out of that, beginning in early 1871, they began to form a congregation. And they met, which some people might raise eyebrows at now, the only place in town, which was the courthouse.
Paul, I love this part of the story. Let me interrupt you just for a moment, because it's such a part of our lore. That ad in the paper that Alfred Holland put, where he said, "Are there any other Baptists in Winston? If so, come to my house on Saturday night." And a few people showed up. I think the second time they met, the only person that showed up that first time wasn't even a Baptist, but was just curious about them. So
he had attended Abbott's Creek.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And but had not been a Baptist. He lived in Salem and worked for the college.
Okay.
So it was a slow start. But beginning the next year, the Baptist State Convention and Beulah Association, which was centered around Reedsville, had a missionary, F.M. Jordan, whom they sent to help the congregation. Can you believe that the first meetings not only were in the courthouse, but they were during the week on Thursdays and Friday nights?
Wow.
And they did. One of the churches, there were 3 churches in town, 2 Methodists, Episcopal Methodist, Protestant, and a fairly new Presbyterian church. And so one of the Methodist churches allowed the group of people to meet before they formed their own presbytery to become an official church in September. So they sort of moved around, and their Sunday school and business meetings were always on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
In schools. The first where Our Lady of Fatima Catholic Church is, and the second at a school on Liberty and 2nd Street.
Okay.
Both private at that time. But there was no place for them to meet. And so in that year, they asked for them to have a revival, which was very common in those days. And Mr. Reverend Jordan brought in some other ministers. And it ended up with organizing a church. One of the more interesting aspects is they had to find somewhere to baptize by immersion.
That's right.
Because neither of the 3 churches in town did that.
Right.
So they went down to what is now Northwest Boulevard and Thurman Street.
Okay.
And there was a pond there named for Belows, who had built the Below House in Salem. People were so curious, having never seen people baptized by immersion. The newspaper claimed there was at least 1,000 people who walked 1 mile from town to the Below Pond for the baptism, and that enhanced the size of the congregation by about 10 or 11.
And didn't the newspaper call it a curious spectacle
They did.
of the baptism? Okay.
They even called them Campbellites, which is a term we have trouble fully defining now.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, it was quite a spectacle for the people of Winston, and even Salem. People came from there, from the Moravian community. So that is how it all got started. And the question was not, do we build a church? We're going to meet where we can until we have money.
So it sounds like in those early years, they started in a home when Alfred Holland placed his ad in the paper and one person showed up, went from a home to the courthouse to other church houses to a pond. They kind of moved around and were a little less rooted in a specific place. But eventually this band of folks that were a collection of Baptists or soon to be Baptists felt both the want and the need for a space. So tell us about that process of the church building its first church house.
Well, it really began when Mr. Jordan retired from that church service in 1874, and he went to Raleigh to make some money for the buying of property. He came back after 4 days. He had collected $260.
Oh, my goodness.
From mainly First Baptist Raleigh folk.
Okay.
And he found a man who would sell them quite a large lot. In fact, it was so large, they sold later one small lot and an area of 100 square feet in the back. So to help pay for the building. And so the man who sold the property in the middle of the block between church and the block, well, it's the block where Forsyth County Jail is right now. And in the middle of the block, they sold this property for $250.
Wow.
And he turned around and gave the church $10.
Wow.
So with the extra $10 from Raleigh and the $10 from the man who sold the lot, they had $20 and, of course, a little more in the treasury.
Okay.
So they started, they started having bake sales and so forth. And in fact, they had sent a little to the Western Sentinel, which was the newspaper at that time. And they wrote such a glowing report, several paragraphs saying how wonderful all this was. And they ended it up by the editor admonishing everybody who was not a Baptist to get their pockets open, pull out that money, and just start giving it to the Baptists and helping them start a new building.
Gosh, wow. And this would have been in the era before there was a much larger Baptist presence locally. I mean, this would have been before Wake Forest and Wake Forest Baptist Hospital and all the other institutions that would bear the Baptist name.
The only Baptist was about 5 or maybe 6, very small. None had 50 members even in Forsyth County.
Okay.
And of course, the Moravians were the predominant group.
Sure. So so they got that $20 and that good piece of land and the appeal from the newspaper for people to open their wallets. Did anything come from that?
Yes.
Did it really? Okay.
They did, and they not only helped with the craft and the food fairs and so forth, they actually gave money.
Wow.
But the first money that went toward it, I think, is very interesting because the pastor is still there occasionally, would come by and talk to people about that, and he went to this house of one of the members, and the little boy of the house, 5 years old, heard the plea, and he went and he got his piggy bank, and he said, I want to give everything I have.
Wow.
He emptied his piggy bank. 5 pennies fell out.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that was the beginning of the first church
Oh
of
my
this
gosh.
congregation. The
Wow.
following meeting day, they took a hat and literally passed it around.
Okay.
This kid was the youngest person attending the church,
Wow.
and the oldest man, who was a member,
Uh-huh.
put in a $100 bill,
Oh my gosh.
which was an incentive to get other people to do that.
Uh-huh.
And so we started out with $100.05.
Wow. And I love that the little child will lead them, that
Yes.
little boy and his 5 pennies.
That's right.
What a wonderful story. I've never heard that story before. Now, is this the era of our church's life? I have a memory from reading our history where many of the members were farmers and pretty common folk. They had to barter some and sell some of their own produce to raise some money for the building.
The
Is that right?
produce especially was
Okay.
important for the men, and the women, of course, the baked goods.
Yeah.
So they were using their own products.
Wow.
And so it worked quite well, and they were doing pretty good. Not by today's standards, of course, but it took a while, and the church was finally built and opened in October of 1876,
Okay.
which was under yet another pastor, Dr. Gwaltney, who was
Yeah.
like Jordan and every early pastor was a Wake Forest graduate. Wake Forest having been opened in 1834.
Right.
And so they had some theological training.
Yeah.
And Dr. Gwaltney was probably the most erudite of the
Okay.
mission pastors that were serving around the state, and had been in Moxville prior to coming here.
Okay. Okay.
So he led in the building of the church.
And so this would have been 5 years after the congregation formed.
Exactly.
Which was in September of 1871.
Till early October
October of
1876.
Okay.
So they'd had no building in which to
Wow.
meet.
Wow. In the courthouse the whole time and other
Well,
churches?
that's right.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sure they had some meetings, maybe ladies of the church or
Yeah.
whatever, in homes,
Okay.
but
So
the
what?
congregation only met.
Got it. Now, tell us about that first structure. What did it look like? Where was it? How did it get built? Tell us a little bit
It
about
was
that.
one room.
One room. Yep.
It had a stove with a pipe going out
Wow.
that heated the building.
Okay.
It had on the facade facing 2nd Street was one door and 2 small windows on each side.
Wow.
That was the extent of it.
Wow.
The women, of course, continued to have sales of their goods and contributed into paying. And, of course, to beautify the church a bit, they had bought blinds for the windows,
Oh.
and they had bought what are called chandeliers. Now, this is, I think, still, there was no electricity. So they were lighted only by hand at night with candles.
Right. Right.
But at least it was some kind of decorative.
Oh my goodness.
So
So would this be in the era, like would people have walked to the church house,
Oh, sure.
taken horses to the church? I mean, how would
people who
have
lived,
arrived?
well, most of the people lived in town and walked.
Yeah, okay.
But there might have been some people who would have come in a wagon or a
Okay.
buggy or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was not an issue of finding a place to park
Yeah, right.
like we have now.
That's right. That's right.
But amazing, let's talk before we get a little further into what was happening to the town.
Yes.
Within 2 years of the date of the beginning of the church, there were 3 people who came to town who started tobacco factory and warehouses. Within less than 10 years, well, within 8 years, there were 40-something businesses
Wow.
and many hundred
Wow.
factories, small,
Right.
very small.
Right.
It got so bad they actually had to make a law in the town that you could not roll hogsheads of tobacco down the streets because it would interfere with movement of children and
Oh my gosh.
shoppers and so
Wow.
forth.
Wow.
So it grew that fast.
So this would have been in the last couple decades of the 1800s? I mean,
This
we're
would have
talking
been in the 1870s.
in the 70s. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
immediately after the church was formed.
Okay.
It came along at an extremely opportune moment.
Sure.
The 1880 census showed that it had about 2,000 people and was the fastest growing town in North Carolina.
So up from 443
That's right.
or something, 46?
Within 10 years.
Wow. Wow.
And so for 50 years, until the 1920s, it kept the fact that it was the fastest growing city in North Carolina, town in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And by the 1900 census, it had reached over 14,000.
Wow. So all this time, all of this is happening around us in Winston-Salem, factories moving in, businesses, people that they're attracting to come to town. And this little group of folks that formed that First Baptist Church are meeting in that one room church house with the, hand-lit chandeliers. How did that work over those 30 years or so?
It gained membership,
Yeah.
believe it or not, within no time. And the ironic thing was 2 railroads had also been built into town, and one of the depots was a block from the church before the church was finished being built.
Oh, wow.
And so it brought people in from elsewhere.
Sure.
And there were a few blacks in the community working in those factories, and they joined First Baptist. The first was an older lady, Aunt Phyllis Gates. And so that group got so big that in 1879, they asked to have their own church. And so First Baptist's first mission building, and they helped to build what is now still First on the Island, but it was located on 6th and a side street. There's a commemorative plaque
There is. Yes, I know. Right
and
where
part
that is.
of the foundation that the church helped the blacks to build.
Yes.
Aunt Phyllis Gates was the last member
Wow.
to leave the black member to leave the church.
Wow.
That was in 1879.
And Dr. Brown, who was our pastor at the time, was instrumental in that.
That is exactly right. And he had come 2 years earlier, or actually less than 2 years. He came in December of 1877 as another one of the missions pastors. And he also had a church out in the county Red Bank. In 1879, the church became self-sufficient. And he became the full-time pastor.
Yes.
So, and Dr. Gwaltney had bought the block next to the church that they did not need for building. And so when he left, he sold that, and I'm not sure if he sold it to the church or he became later an honorary Dr. Brown. And he started his pastorate on December the 17th.
Wow.
1877, and he finished it exactly to the day, 40 years later, December of 1917.
Wow. That is quite a run. He's our longest serving pastor, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
And ironically, his pastorate is due to a woman. They were having a meeting after Dr. Gwaltney moved to Greensboro. And they, so a prayer meeting that lasted all night. And women would be able to speak in business sessions only to ask questions. She, Mrs. Conrad, whose husband was probably the most prominent member of the church, she stood up and she said, "I would like to put in motion A woman.
I love
She
it.
said, I know a pastor that I have heard and I think we need.
Wow.
His name is Henry Brown.
Wow.
He's pastor of the Baptist Church in Fayetteville.
Okay.
He'd grown up in Rockingham County,
Yeah, sure.
so nearby. And so they prayed about it, and all things led in that direction.
Wow.
The irony was he was a different kind of pastor, especially from the first pastor, who was a bit of a hell that fire and damnation preacher.
Right.
Dr. Gwaltney was a serious academician, and Henry Brown, Alfred Brown, Alfred Brown was the opposite in a way. He said, you talk to people from the pulpit the same way you talk to people in their homes. Never raised his voice.
Wow.
Never spoke loudly.
Wow.
And so that was something that changed for this church. It was a turnaround.
Sure.
The same time he came, Dr. Ronthaler became the pastor of Home Moravian and later the bishop of the southern province.
Okay.
They became strong friends, and always, if either church had something special, the other pastor was invited.
Oh, okay.
One of those was in 1881, the Baptist Convention chose to meet in the church. And of course, they had to get it ready. So they spent over $1,000. They put in a new stove, more modern.
Okay.
They brought in a organ
Okay.
that had belonged to Salem College,
Wow.
a pump organ.
Okay.
They had put carpet down the aisles, and they changed the facade. Where there had been a door in the middle, they put a cathedral window, and the two windows were replaced by two doors, double doors with covered entrance.
Oh.
Similar, of course,
Fancy.
to
Right.
the Moravian.
Yeah.
And they added a balcony,
Oh my
rearranged the seating,
goodness. Okay.
and so they enlarged the church.
Wow.
It was in November. Why Baptists chose to do that. But they came by train and all that.
Wow.
The Moravians helped the Baptists to house the people who came.
Oh my goodness.
So it was an amazing start to a renovated church house
Yes.
and an slightly enlarged seating capacity.
Wow. So not only did those 5 pennies and that $100 bill build the building, but then, let's see if I'm saying this right, 10 years in, they did renovation to expand the capacity.
5 years after the church
5 years
opened.
after. Okay.
10 years after it was formed.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
because the building was built in 76.
right.
That's right. Wow. So, and they kind of rocked along in that space.
They did quite well. Of course,
Yeah.
Dr. Ronthaler was a guest speaker.
Right.
And so the congregations worked together. And I'm told by people who knew that they worked together to form a Moravian church in a part of town that didn't have Baptists or Moravians. Freeze Memorial.
Okay.
But anyway, it was a great
Wow.
time for the churches.
That's right.
And then in the 80s, not only did they have a mission called First on Highland now, but they started Sunday schools. And the pastor, Dr. Brown, we called him later Dr. Brown,
Yes.
was a beekeeper. So he called it a swarming.
Yes.
And so he had a swarming in every part of the city
Oh my goodness.
as it expanded.
Yeah.
The first was a suburb called West End later, but West Winston.
Okay.
And it was annexed and became what we still call West End. And they built a small space, started as a Sunday school, later became quite a large church on Broad and what was then 3rd Street, now Holly Avenue. It was on the east side of Broad.
Okay.
And the church grew exponentially as well.
Wow.
And they began to refer to it as Broad Street and
Yes.
2nd Street
Yes.
as the original church to
Yes.
make a distinction.
Yes.
And then they continued to do more of that kind of thing in the 1880s, 90s, and by the first decade of the 1900s, they had built North Winston, East Winston, South Side, and Salem.
Wow. Wow.
All starting as Sunday schools that became missions and then full-fledged churches.
Wow. Wow. So this right here is where we're going to pause our conversation because we want to leave you with a little bit of a cliffhanger and wondering what that church did next. You'll have to tune in to our next episode. Thank you so much to Paul. Paul, thank you for narrating the first 30 years or so of the church's life. Thank you for listening. Come back and hear us for our next episode.